Okay, there we go. We are recording. Welcome, everybody. It is August 5th, 2020, and this is the weekly contributor experience meeting for SIG Contributor Experience. I am pasting the link to the notes in the chat, and we'll be publishing to the list right after this meeting. I'll be your host today, George Castro. Bob, your other co-chair, is in training and not supposed to concentrate on that, so we're going to try to have a meeting without Bob helping us along the way, and I've already failed at that. Please put your name in the attendees section. We have discussions to discuss today, mostly around the root owners for KK, which we want to talk about first. I see Tim's here. So we're going to do that first to get it out of the way, and then we'll go on and move on to our normal business real quick. The Kubernetes Code of Conduct is in effect, so please be excellent to each other. Remember that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube, and the notes will be published to the SIG Contributor Experience mailing list, which is public. So remember that. New contributor intro. Let's just get this out of the way. Is there anybody new here who has not attended one of these meetings before that want to introduce yourselves?
Hi all. I'm Yuvraj Jam from VMware. This is the first ever SIG Contribix meeting I'm attending. Hi everyone.
Awesome, welcome.
I'm Kendall Nelson. I work for the OpenStack Foundation and have more recently started kind of trying to bridge our communities together a little bit more. So SIG.
Oh, I think you muted.
You cut out there.
Oh no. Okay.
There you go.
How much of that did you get?
Here from the OpenStack Foundation, bridging
our communities together. A lot of what I do for OpenStack is very similar to what SIG Contributor Experience does, focusing on like getting people into the community and lowering barriers and documenting all the processes and stuff. So I figured that this was a good place to start in addition to my work with SIG Cloud Provider and Provider OpenStack. So
awesome. Yeah. You're most welcome. I think you'll find lots of OpenStackers here.
Yes.
Good. Welcome. All right. With that, any other new contributors or anybody who hasn't attended in a while that wants to say hello? All right. Moving on to the open mic discussion. Nikita is going to grab this. Root owners for Kubernetes.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief intro on what my conclusion is from the thread, and then others can speak to it depending on what they think. So if you haven't already seen the issue, there is an issue which talks about cleaning up root owners for KK and structuring it properly. Currently, the approval plugin, how it's written, it doesn't allow us to structure approvers in a way that we would ideally want to. So we need to make some changes to the plugin. The plugin is code is quite complicated right now, and making changes to it is very difficult, and we usually try to avoid making big changes to it. And any changes that will be made to that plugin will require quite some time to get it hashed out. So as per the thread, this is what I got from it. Please let me know if that makes sense or if anything needs to be added, and we can discuss it. So given how complicated the approval plugin is right now, I think we need to start from a KEP and get the design out first and then work on the implementation. The KEP would cover three things, or two or three things. The first one would be that it would add support for granular approval. So if I have like root approval in a repo, then and I'm also in some subdirectories, then I should be able to just approve certain subdirectories or certain files. I would say approve like directory 1 or file 1, and it would just approve for that file, and for everything else we'll need you can say that I need some more extra pair of eyes from SIG node or SIG, whatever SIG it is. This is especially useful for root approvers because right now, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like the approval rights are extremely empowering, and we'd want to limit how that's being used and encourage more use of it. The other thing we want to add is also regex filtering for approvers in owners files. So defining approvers for certain files like go.mod, go.sum, so we can have dependency approvers approve such files. The trick here, or the catch here, is that we'd still need to define a set of like complete root approvers, because what if we need to make change to this owners file, or what if we need to add other files? So we could probably have an opt-in feature which says that there is one set of approvers who will only be approving changes to owners files or new removal or additions of certain directories. But I think we could debate more on that on the design, and we don't really need to hash it out here. The other last thing would be that we would also need a way to track usage of how blank root approval is used versus granular root approval is being used. It doesn't really have to be in the approval plugin, but we need to make sure that whatever design we decide for the plugin plays nicely with dev stats, and we'd create the feature for tracking it in dev stats. That's kind of it. That's all I got from the thread. That's what I think. What does everyone here think about it?
Hi, Nikita. Thank you for summarizing. This is Tim. As someone who holds root approvers, I do find myself sometimes not wanting to approve a PR until all the other subdirectories have approved it, because I know I haven't read all the code, and I don't have a way to say, well, I'm approving the API change, but not the implementation. And so I'm a huge proponent of being able to say something like /approve subdirectory. And that would be super useful for me. Everything else you discussed is gravy. Like, they're nice, but I don't really need them. If I could just get the directories, then that would be super cool. Sorry if my audio is terrible.
James, you
That's
have
all I
your
had to
hand
say.
up in between.
So does everybody understand where we got here and from where, or should I give a little bit of context of why I ended up with this thought process, right?
I think context for the video is important as well for people who
Yeah.
So the way it started out was, the old 2-year-old issue where we were talking about the owners files are stale, and people are there who are not active in the community. So that is one angle. Bob and others have done plenty of work on trying to clean up, trying to figure out who is not active in the org and stuff like that. So the root owners file was definitely one of those, and we ended up talking to Brian Grant and Brendan, and they volunteered to go emeritus, just like we had Joe step down as emeritus. I remember, George, you filed the PR for that, if I remember right. So now we have 3 people who have stepped down, and then the question was, of the people who are still there, how many of them really need this permission? And is there an alternative way to empower them? What do they do with it, and how do they do it? And so I'll give you an example. Like Wojtek helps with scalability, and there's a lot of things that he needs to revert when scalability jobs go down. And then the way they work is, he's in Europe, and it would be really good for him to have that power, right? Another example is like Jordan. He's everywhere, and he does tons of work and tons of reviews. So going and adding Jordan everywhere is probably not a good practice. And I would love for Jordan to continue doing what he's doing. So and then we were looking at like the other people, right? So those are 2 examples of scenarios where we definitely need this capability. Then the question was like, we haven't added anybody to it, right? Do we need to add anybody? So I volunteered to add myself to help with like the go.mod, go.sum and related files, because I'm a dep approver. I'm listed there, but I can't really do anything. So usually what I do is I do some amount of, due diligence there, but I end up pinging Tim and Jordan to actually do the approval, right? So that was the third question, saying, okay, do we need to add somebody? What would be the requirements for adding somebody? Then some part of the feedback was, we can't really add people because the people are going to have like really blanket permissions, and you could literally change everything in the project. So we shouldn't be adding people. So then the question is like, can we prune people? Can we limit what they are doing? So we went down this discussion path and realized that we are actually hampering the people in the root owners file because they are not able to do their work because they can't go and approve things because immediately when they approve something, somebody could LGTM and the whole thing could, even if it's a whip, it could just merge, right? So then Tim and Daniel and others came up with this idea of like, okay, what if we do this thing where we can only approve certain parts of the tree, even though we are in the root file? Then so immediately the thing turned to, oh, this is like a useful thing for everybody. It doesn't have to be for just the root owners. For example, I help with the hack Golang failures, because I'm in the hack directory. So whenever somebody fixes a Golang failure, they'll come and ping me saying, James, can you approve this? And at that point, even if I have approval rights in other directories, I don't want to do an approve until all of those are approved by somebody else. And the only thing remaining is Golang. So that gives an example of like how it is useful to me as a non-root owner as well. So so that was the thought process where we ended up. Some of it was on an email thread behind the scenes, but most of it happened on the issues itself, which you probably saw. So Tim, did I structure that correctly?
Yeah, great summary. Agree with everything you said. One thought came to mind. There are files in the root directory that like you would like to help administer, and I have zero objection to that, but they're in the root directory. Can we trick them? Like we tricked Basil by moving the files into a subdirectory and then symlinking it. I don't know if Go would follow the symlinks. Go has a long history of not liking symlinks.
Yeah, we tried that. It didn't work, unfortunately.
I tried it. It did work, but Jordan briefed me on like some history there where it's broken in the past. So we judged that it wasn't worth it to like say, oh, it works today. It's going to be working in perpetuity down the road. Yeah.
So
okay. So
maybe we could ask the Go team, like, could you make sure that this stays working? This is a really useful feature for delegated code trees. Like, I know they've in the past shot down Simlinks as part of your path as it's just too complicated to make work right, which I think is bullcrap, but that's different. This is like within a Go tree, Simlinks. I feel like we could make an argument for why this is useful.
We could. I feel like it for us really it's a workaround. And I honestly I don't think that they're going to go for it. If I'm frank, we could try. Like it's a low effort thing for us to do to kind of go and like make the proposal to the Golang team and see what they say. But I don't want to. I would not want to put all our eggs in that basket. Really, like, there's nothing to me that's bad or off about if we were doing more of like enabling more granular approvals in the approval plugin. But really, and this has been something that has been true for a while now, is the approve plugin as it stands today needs to be completely rewritten. The way it's designed, the way it's laid out, the way the code is laid out, the way the way it makes assumptions is wrong, not just like its own internal logic inside the plugin, but also the way it interacts with other plugins and PROW and owners files and all that kind of stuff. You know, every other component of PROW has kind of moved on as far as how it handles like the repo owners package, how it reads owners files, the way it makes decisions based on those owners files. The approved plugin hasn't because it was just a neglected, very complex, neglected piece of code. The last I had like looked at it was a couple months ago, and I was looking at it from the perspective of scoping out and designing a complete rewrite of the plugin and what the constraints would be and how we do it. Adding this feature as far as more granular approvals, it wouldn't be that much more difficult to add. It may, like, there might be some performance issues I can see just because of the way like PROW plugins are designed to be stateless. So when it reads approvals in, it basically reads every comment in the issue and looks for ones that match the approved regex. And right now it's just kind of a binary, like is approve on or is approve off. And if it has to do more processing there, I could see there be some potential performance issues, but we would have to kind of cross that bridge. Yeah, it's very possible, but it's not possible without a complete and total rewrite. So we'd have to look into options for that, whether that is like, you know, setting it up as like a GSOC project, whether it's setting it up as like, okay, we just need to contract somebody. Because right now the problem is, and this has been true for a while, the Venn diagram of people who understand what the approved plugin should look like and people who have time to do a complete ground up rewrite of the plugin is zero. There's no overlap between those circles. And there hasn't been overlap between those circles for a good couple of years now. So, you know, if we just need to like get a contractor or something to do it, then like maybe that's the road we go down. But I think the key is like going through that design thought process and getting it done. It's probably like, again, because it's a rewrite, that's not like an immediate term solution. So if we need immediate term solutions, yeah, then we're looking at like properly grooming and setting up that root owners file, like people who are inactive, pull them out, as I've seen happen. People who are active, like DIMS, getting them in. I was also thinking of volunteering because I'm also a DEP approver there. But like, you know, again, it just comes down to, as far as the medium to long-term solution, properly designing and scoping out what the approved plugin will look like in the future, and then getting something on it. Yeah, just calling out what Paris said in the chat. So GSOC and Outreachy will have us waiting for a while. If we want it more immediate, it might be like hiring a contractor to do it.
So like in my current role, I do have bandwidth to work on this. I mean, it's definitely not going to be a solo effort. I will pull in other folks. I know there are some folks who are looking to work on more tech aspects in Contribex, so I'm going to pull them in and we'll see how that goes. We can have contractor as another option in the end, for sure, if that doesn't work out.
Clayton, you're in that file as well. Do you have any comments? Or are you just listening in?
I'm just listening. I mean, I think Tim captured 90% of it, which was we want to remove the need for top level owners. We still have some, there's a weird historical role that I think is undercovered in the project, which is some level of caution with some very, very light centralization that SIG Arch really doesn't own right now. And that's just the weird separation is like, you know, contributor ladder, senior code owners / SIG owners / SIG leads / we have a very vague structure there. I would like to see that clarified and refined a bit, because SIGArch aggressively delegates, but then we do not have a fully navigated set of technical resolution things outside of like API review today. So I think that aspect of it, I think, can be separated from the approval part. I think, Tim covered it pretty well. Is shrinking that down and removing the need for it, I think, is a good goal.
I think in general, just our next steps is to get going on the design doc, or or KEP, or however we want to do that, and then we sort of see, Nikita, whether you have time or if we need to potentially reach out to other people. We just need to get that design and write up out by the people that have, the knowledge of the approved plugin and what it needs to do.
Tim, in chat, you said you want to volunteer to help write the spec, and Paris says we'll need it whether it's volunteers or contractors or whatever anyway.
Yeah, I said help. I would.
Gotcha.
I would like to help and write it out. I would like to not write it completely myself if I can avoid it, just because I'm overcommitted and I have a habit of doing that.
I hear you.
But happy to help write it out and try to make it as precise and limited as possible.
I'll ping you for feedback once we have something going.
Excellent.
Should we set up like a focused design discussion on it? Because that's something that I know I have notes in like 5 different places, and there's also some stuff in my head that I haven't written down, which is not great, but just from me throwing band-aids on that plugin over the last few years. Maybe if we like put out a design discussion, then we could also open it up to folks that like might be interested in contributing in some way, like just be a fly on the wall, listen into the design discussion, and then maybe we can get some volunteers to help out with the coding parts.
Yeah, Paris is noting on me cough Lowry, because so I was busy kind of looking at the release engineering backlog, and actually there's a few items with many of you. I will ping you one-on-one on Slack about it. I heard the D word, delegation, and so my ears pricked up. And so basically, this is what I've been focusing on as program manager in the release SIG and release team. So it's great that some of you are already aware of how you don't want to overcommit, because this is a huge issue, as you know. So I can give you some pointers on how to shape this. I think you really want to be careful to help others not overcommit, because I think that if you have a really hot topic like this, you're going to have a bunch of contributors or want to be contributors who are already overstretched on 10 different topics. So my thought, though, is that you need their user feedback. And so structuring just a discussion around like them as users, what would you like to see in this plugin? And then maybe send them off to do their 10 different things. And then if you can leverage contributors from other pools besides the usual suspects pool, I think you'll be quite happy with the results. So,
Okay, so
I'm happy to help you structure that.
With that in mind, who wants to take charge of scheduling the meeting and the design discussion? So I do want to get some names next to action items, so we're not.
Yeah. So like I was thinking that before we set up a meeting, we do a little bit of background homework on just a draft to get the discussion like seated. Laurie, I'll work with you to get
I think what you want to
and then
I think what you want to do is kind of like figure out what your requirements are and just spin up a simple template for what information do you need, so that when you have these folks come to a session, you have very focused questions for them and you feel like you're totally in control of the conversation, getting the info you need, and they know exactly why they're there, and then they go off and do their other things. So yeah, I can help you with that. There's tons of stuff online. I just recycle. I'm in Germany. I recycle. So
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have the clear next steps, because I
Yep.
don't want it to be like, we're all going to do this and then no one's name is on
Yeah.
there and then we forget and then we're talking about this in 6 months.
No, I think what we'll do is Nikita and I will meet. We'll come up with a template. Then she will shop it to the wider circle of folks speaking up here to get some feedback. I think, you know, that would be her plan. And then after everybody's kind of like comfortable with the plan, you get these folks who are not attending this meeting right now to just share their feedback and walk away. And then you figure out a way to update them on progress. So a communications mechanism.
Okay, so that brings us to time. Any last calls on this? Thanks, Tim, Clayton. You're more than welcome to hang out more if you want to come hang out. All right, we are moving on to our normal everyday business, which is our weekly SIG contributor experience meeting. First sub-project is going to be events. Office hours, not much to do this week, so I'm going to skip it. Sorry about my dog. Community meeting. So we have Jenny hosting next week and someone else, or next month and the week and the month after. We do, however, need someone to host this month to get the work started. I put a call out on chat. If you have anyone, especially, I'm looking for people who haven't done this before, who are kind of learning how to figure out how Kubernetes works. So if you have someone in mind, please let me know. If I don't get someone by this Friday, I'm going to do it this month, and you don't want that. Contributor summits, not much to report here. Steering committee election, we added this. Josh and Ihor are to the election officers, and we're just going to add this section from now into the election to give us an update.
Yeah, so we've been back and forth with the steering committee on dates. We're just waiting final confirmation on dates. The election officers wanted to leave more time in the 2 sections of the election cycle this year because people are distracted. But that would mean changing the date of the public steering committee for October. So we're waiting to find out on that. I also was looking for ideas around verifying email addresses, but Paris answered that in the back channel while we were doing the rest of the meeting. So we don't need to discuss that.
You're muted, George.
Can you hear me now? Any questions on the election? All right, moving on to mentoring. P. Diddy, you here?
I am, but there's no updates.
Okay.
All right.
Duly noted. Community management, need to know chairs and tech leads email. I am working on that. I've got one item on it. That's a remind. Oh, Josh, you got something?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's already come out. A call to CADA for people to, and I want to reiterate this in this meeting, for people to take on segments for the new contributor workshop, either video recording those segments or writing them up in documentation format. We'll want lots of people to do this so that each person only has to do one segment. So look for that on KDev either yesterday or today.
Okay, and I've got the reminder there for the calendars. Basically, we need to make sure that they're inviting their own project lists or their own SIG lists to their meetings, and that's what gets it on the calendar. All right, any questions around community management? APAC coordinator update is no status. It looks like they're canceled the meeting last time. So I'll add that in there. Anything else community management wise? Doesn't look like it. GitHub management.
I have, yeah, sorry for interrupting, but I have the mentoring updates. I was just surprised that we passed this section so fast. So,
sorry, Pear said no updates, but go.
Yeah, we have no updates on everything besides Google Summer of Code and Community Bridge. So probably had no updates on GitHub contributors and other stuff. So with Community Bridge, we have just closed our Q2 chapter, and we had 2 mentees that have been working on Kubernetes project, and both of them have successfully passed it. So congrats to those mentees. Will CNCF will publish the announcement of all the details about this program later this month, probably next week or so. And with Google Summer of Code, we still have pretty good progress. So we have a bunch of mentees working on Kubernetes project. We have just we have just finished the second evaluation. And most of them are still working on the assignments, and we'll have the final news about the Google Summer of Code late August or September. And that's it on this.
Awesome. Any questions for Ihor or anything mentoring related? All right, GitHub Management, Nikita.
Yeah, so the product security committee came to the GitHub management team to ask about setting up a .github repo in the GitHub orgs that we have, like Kubernetes, Kubernetes 6, Kubernetes CSI, and Kubernetes client. So when you have a .github repo in any org, GitHub treats that as special, and any files in those in the .github repo are considered org-wide. So you can have files like contributing.md, code of conduct, and security.md. Security.md is the file that we would want to add in such an org-wide repo. So what the PSC was doing recently was that they were adding a security.md file to all repos in all orgs and creating PRs for it, which was turning out to be cumbersome. But if we have a central repo like this, that makes it easier to update the policy if we ever need to, and we don't really need to create PRs for all orgs. The one slight catch here is that if you clone some other repo, it won't, like the security.md file won't show up in your clone, but I think that's fine. And the other thing is that if you have a security.md in your like specific repo, that supersedes the all-wide one. But I guess that's fine too, and we can, like, it's the product security committee said that they take responsibility for making sure that all of that is in sync, and they'll create PRs to update it if needed. We'd be using the all-wide repo just for security.md files for now, because we want to make sure like code of conduct, contributing.md is more visible and is also available when people clone repos. That's kind of it. So Joel did, the issue link, it's in the notes and it's in the chat too.
I could get it.
Yeah.
You got it.
So Joel did LGTM it from a PSC perspective. I'd like to get an app from Contribex perspective as well, because it involves kind of contributing and GitHub management stuff. Since this would be a repo for the Kubernetes GitHub org, I think we'd need an LGTM from SIG architecture. And since the Kubernetes template repo is owned by the steering committee, I guess it makes sense if this GitHub repo is owned by the steering committee. But from the steering committee hat on, I really don't have like concerns if it's owned by someone, some other SIG like Contribex. It's kind of like good stuff. Yeah, something to say.
Yeah, I was literally just going to say that same thing. Like, I think the steering committee owning the template is historical, at least from my perspective. I think with this one, I'd say let's make it owned by Contribex and or probably like the GitHub management subproject or something, like make it owned by Contribex. And then I would be supportive, with steering committee hat on, of transferring the template project away from steering committee and to Contribex, because there's not really anything steering specific in it. It's mostly just the nuts and bolts of how do we create a new repo.
But
other than that one comment, I am +1 on this.
Cool. Any other objections, +1s, -1s for us? If Contribex is okay with it, I'll then go to SIG architecture and probably just create an email on their mailing list, get their LGTM, and get the repo created, and let the PSC. I figured it out, like I'll sync with them for this one.
Okay. Anything else around GitHub management? Questions, comments?
I actually, sorry, I have one thing. I was answering a message. So we've begun, starting like last month, we began regularly cleaning up the orgs. We have another round of inactive members to remove. The PR for that is already out, but the thing that could actually use some help with is opening up some of the PRs to remove the inactive owners. They have all been linked in the issue in there. And if you're like people want to look at examples, the other open issue from last month has a lot of them. Nikito actually did a lot of legwork there, and I don't know how many PRs he opened. We opened up a bunch, sort of cleaning up all over the various orgs. But any help there would be appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could just slap a good first issue label. Kind of feels weird slapping a good first issue label on a clean up PR.
Please no.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Bob, who isn't working today? Dev stats, Lori.
I'm still compiling my spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. So basically, just I've put the link in the agenda for anybody who's new and doesn't know what dev stats are. There's not too much to report except that to break down the work, I spitballed some personas that were floating around kind of in people's minds and made a tab with those personas in the doc that's linked to in the agenda where I have some notes. And so we have 2 owners for 2 of the personas, and I'm wondering if we can get owners for the others. So if you click on the link where it says dump your data points. So we have Grant helping with the contributor persona and April on the company program manager or officer persona. We also have SIG chair or tech lead, steering committee, and process minder, like who's looking at the overall health of the whole project. And then the last one is CNCF persona. Do we have any takers to own the other unowned personas?
Sorry, Lori, I'm opening my hand. Can I work with April on the company program manager one? I know it's you want one person per, but
nope, no. I think the more the merrier, because pairing up is one of my themes for the week. Relates back to delegation. So we need just the chair or tech lead and the steering committee process minder.
I can help with the chair one, but I would love to have a more technical chair with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a more engineering.
I might be able to help there. It'll just depend on timing.
Yeah,
I think we should actually defer to somebody who's not involved so much, like who is like SIG network, SIG apps, something like this, and get their perspective. Like, because we really need their perspective. We're preaching to the choir here. We need folks that are currently not like gung-ho about dev stats to take an interest in what data they could collect. And so I'm going to just reflect back what Josh and I had spoken about 2 weeks earlier. We want to try to pitch dev stats without talking about dev stats because it hasn't worked in the past.
Yeah.
So we want to go to folks and be like, what data points would help you in your role in the community to understand, like in this case, how is your SIG operating? So just really fresh. What data would you like? And we think that that could be more successful in driving in some engagement. So George, would you like to craft a message and we can post it in chairs and leads channel and then see how that goes? And if we don't get a response, then we do next step outreach.
I also have 2 weeks worth of DevStat stuff that I said I would sync with you on that I haven't yet due to being busy. So can you just carve some time out and I will be there this week? Like just force me to, like, do you have time tomorrow or something? We just need to sit down and bust out like 3 weeks worth of syncing on this.
Yeah, I think so. And then we'll actually use the conversation to populate this spreadsheet with data points from the user persona that you're owning.
Yeah.
So sure, I can set that up tomorrow.
I was also just going to mention on the steering committee Kubernetes process minder persona. whatever message that you send out to the chairs and tech leads, also just send it out to steering@kates.io. And then like we can have a look at it and see who might volunteer. We have 3 steering committee members on the call, but also there's another 4 of us as well. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want the messaging prepared, we're happy to can that and ship it over to you to share with them. Otherwise, maybe your personal relationships are just enough to get somebody to to come on board with this. Like their involvement here actually doesn't have to be that. We're not asking them to actually like create dev stats or anything like this. Right. We just want to actually get the data points from the perspective. So like what data would they like to see? And then they would have, maybe at your next meeting, they would carve out 15 minutes to just talk about that and again, populate the spreadsheet. So I think that's really the only ask at this time for owner.
All right, anything else DevStats related? Yeah, it's just Sundays. I start Monday and then it's Friday before I know it. So I'm sorry about that, Lori. I definitely owe you more time.
No worries.
Slack Infra, I do have a quick update. We had this bug that was kind of popular back in the day where we wanted to move Slack Infra into its own SIG and get volunteers and all this kind of stuff. And Noah was like, you know what, the automations are running smoothly. We're not really having any problems. So we kind of closed it. And I don't think it's controversial to keep Slack Infra the way it's rolling. Anyone have strong objections to that? And if it comes up again, I figure we could bring it up again. Most of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, which means it must be working. All right, contributor documentation, contributor guide. I don't have much to report this week, but I know Bob has been doing some work on this. Bob, do you want to say anything, or do you want to move on?
It's just a quick thing. We should have the domain transferred soon. The LF has done their part. There's an open PR in kits.io to sort of finalize that. We should be fairly close to launch.
Okay. That is going to be awesome. Developer guide, Joel. I don't see Eric today, but take it away, Joel.
Yeah, we did a rather large, it's under Eric's name, but we did a rather large PR on the developer guide end to end for all platforms. Paris used lots of emojis around it, so I feel like we're on the right track there. Love to get that closed out. I probably should have looked at it this morning before this meeting, but I have not. I can certainly put it in the notes after I stop talking, because I can't talk and click at the same time. Then we're going to move on to the testing next. One of the kind of open issues with that is, as we've talked about before, it touches the Docker documentation, and it's like, do we reach out to Docker and update that just so that we can be more effective to, because the user is what matters when they go to Docker. They don't care that it's somewhere else. So we're kind of like wrestling with that, and I don't know, any thoughts on how you guys tend to solve that? I'd be curious about hearing.
Yes. So lots of us have personal connections of people that are working on Docker or know people that do have those connections. So I would definitely take advantage of the social aspect there. So if you can figure out, tell me like what page this is going to be, I can start reaching out to people I know that have ties to the Docker community. Anyone else have recommendations? Paris?
I work with some maintainers here, so I can circulate. Just tell me what you need to circulate.
We'll wrap that up into the neatest package of spaghetti we can. And,
excellent.
Communicate with you guys about that.
Don't make it too easy. I'm just kidding.
No.
None of it is easy.
All right, way to go, you two, for as usual volunteering for every dang thing. So thanks.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for Joel?
Yeah.
Any questions for Joel? Okay. Awesome. Contributor side, Bobbers. I think we just went through this, but anything you can add?
No, sorry. I think I mixed up in my head contributor guide and contributor site.
I get it. All right. Other business tutorial PR. This is more working group naming. However, I ran into this doing a workshop in the weekend, and there's a tutorial page in the docs that has language that we'd have to rewrite the whole tutorial. There's no way to just like fix the wording there. So Paul Czar did a pull request, and I would like eyeballs on there, special technical ones, because we're kind of replacing an entire tutorial. We're not just fixing words. So if you have cycles, please take a look there. Bob, issue triage cap.
So this we should try and like move on sooner rather than later. I hate saying this, but I think most of the current next steps is on you, Christoph, and Nikita. But like we also need to flesh out, like fill in the final details on the KEP. I'm going to try and get whatever text we can in there. But once that is in a happy state, we will really need to start blasting comms and doing things like that, and we'll poke the marketing team. We will need to also update our documentation.
Can we set? Sorry, go on.
Oh, it's just like this is the ideal time, just because we're sort of like in between releases before like the major triaging stuff really kicks up again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can we set a soft deadline to this so that it would make it prioritized?
Do we? What deadline do you think? End of the month?
Remember, we have KubeCon coming up.
Yep. First week of September.
Let me give
I guess that seems reasonable.
The 2nd of September is a Wednesday.
Works for me, especially since August 25th is the 1.19 release.
Yeah, that's sort of why there's a little bit of urgency on it. It's come up again a few times. I know a lot of people would like to get going on it or start using it.
Sounds good. So I guess what are the next steps here?
So Stefan has a web PR out that needs to just be sort of like brought into shape. And then there's like a bunch of fill in later parts of the KEP that I think we should be able to take care of pretty quickly. After that, it is then just like updating our documentation and getting the word out.
Okay, sounds good. I can take a look at Stephen's. I was taking a look at it before, but I'll do another run through Stephen's PR and see what we need to update there. Can someone also help or take on the KEP stuff?
Yeah, I will help with the KEP stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then I'll add that here. Normally we do a milestone and board work down, but we have like a full agenda. We're meeting weekly now, so I don't think we need to cover that now. Last thing I do want to cover though is Bob and I worked on our introduction to contributor experience. We went in my basement and we recorded, and that's going to be a KubeCon talk during virtual KubeCon, whenever that is, next week, something like that. But anyway, I encourage you to watch it because it's starring all of you in here. So please, although I did want to mention one more thing though, is that thing took way more time and work than I thought it would be. So they are this virtual KubeCon is the first time we're doing this, and there's going to be a lot of first-time speakers that aren't getting like the normal community love and backing that they do when when we run into a KubeCon. Tell them to do a great job. I know we're all tired of virtual conferences and stuff, but just if you can all keep in the mind of your head, for many of these people, this is their first time, and just like try to be supportive. If you could tweet, tell them they did a great job, that kind of thing. I think if we extend a little bit of our courtesy and our love more than usual, I think it will help a lot of people, because I know a lot of people are under a lot of high stress. And as usual, I've been spending a lot of time talking to people, just listening to them, hanging out. I know the things are rough right now, so if you just need to talk to someone or whatever, my plate's always open. And I know we're doing a great job, I think, talking to each other. I know a lot of you are going to Steven's little Friday afternoon. Let's just hang out and shoot the breeze. So please, please take care of each other. And if any of you are feeling under a bunch of stress and just want to yell into a telephone for an hour, I'm always available. So
I am too.
Yeah.
Like I've been focusing a lot on time management, just like coaching people to do less lately.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how some folks are actually handling
Yeah.
literally the hundreds of items that they've got assigned to themselves in this
I'll
project.
tell you what, I'm never going to complain about KubeCon again. I'll be like, sponsored talks? Sure, I'm in. Bring them on. As long as we're all together, I'll do whatever you want. All right, we are 6 minutes early. Last call. All right, great. Welcome, newcomers, once again, and old timers. It's always good to see you. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see everyone in a week. Give you 6 minutes back. Yay. Great job, everyone.